How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my Week 16 score predictions video, where I'm going to go through all the NFL games taking place this Week 16. Can't believe we're already at Week 16. It's absolutely flown by this season. Only 2 more weeks of the regular season and the playoffs. So that'll be exciting, especially now that my team's actually in it. We're a competent football team again for the first time in a bit. So, yeah, gonna go over score predictions, talk about how I think the games are gonna go, all that good stuff. So diving straight in here. So the first game, it's a Thursday night game. It's taking place in a couple hours as I'm recording this video. We've got the Rams at the Seahawks, and I'm gonna pick the Rams in a squeaker here. I think they're gonna get a close win. Seattle's favored by 1.5. I would avoid that spread. I would not bet on this game at all. It's going to be extremely risky. I think this game can go either way. Definitely a coin toss game. A couple weeks ago, when I did my what week did these teams? So I forget off the top of my head, but these teams played a couple weeks ago. During my recap video, I said unless things change, I'm going to pick Seattle to get the dub in the next game, the rematch, and go with the split here, 1-1. Well, things in my mind have changed enough for me to lean with the Rams and the squeaker here. The main thing I'm uneasy about with Seattle is their offense lately. Their offense has not been nearly as efficient as it has been for most of the season. They've been an extremely field goal based offense. They're not getting too many touchdowns. They went off the second half of the Falcons game. Besides that, they've been an extremely field goal heavy offense. And the Rams, I don't know what they do, but they're Darnold's kryptonite the past 2 games. So combined with the fact that Seattle's offense hasn't been too great lately, and the Rams defense being kryptonite for Darnold, I'm going to go with the Rams here. Seattle just feels like they've just been squeaking by lately because their defense has been, killing it like it has all year. I think their defense is going to play really good here. They're going to keep it close, but I don't think Darnold's going to turn over 4 times again. But I think the Rams defense is going to be able to limit Seattle enough for Stafford to just do enough here. Now, Seattle's defense, like I mentioned, has been playing great all season. It played well enough to certainly win the first matchup. If Darnold didn't turn over 4 times, they would have won. They still, even with the 4 turnovers, were attempting a field goal to win the game. That was a 60-something yarder that Jason Myers missed. But still, that they nearly won that game with the 4 turnovers. From what I remember, they actually outplayed the Rams, except those turnovers. But the Rams' offense, actually, you can argue the Rams, or sorry, not their offense, their defense has been not too great the past couple of games. It's been slipping up a bit, so maybe that can favor Seattle here. And obviously, no Davante Adams here, which the person that I would have been playing in the championship in one of my leagues has Adams, and obviously benched him for this game, and I would have felt very good about my odds at beating him if I didn't make stupid benching decision to start Jordan Love over Bo Nix last week, but that's okay. Just a 12-2 one-seeded team. That really is pissing me off that I blew that, but that's okay. Anyway, so yeah, Seattle can definitely win the game at home. Seattle prime time, big game for both of these teams. This is going to have monster implications on who may win the division, who may end up with the 1 seed. Everyone's just kind of assuming it's going to be the Rams, but Seattle, if they win this game, I'm pretty sure they're the current 1 seed in the NFC. So that's going to be huge. Darnold's going to be extra motivated to right, my Apple Watch is recording everything I said. So I'll send it in text to someone. That could have been a disaster, but that's okay. But yeah, Darnold, sorry, that just completely threw me out. My watch is like having a seizure. Okay, so Darnold obviously going to be looking for revenge against the Rams here at home, primetime Seattle. They split. Well, if you would think they would split, maybe going into the season, especially after how the game ended a couple weeks ago, how it played out there. No Adams. Puka Nakuma's got some off the field stuff going on. Interesting there. He's kind of in hot water. Had to issue an apology today. So yeah, Seattle, if they can just play like they did a couple weeks ago and Darnold can with the turnovers, they can win the game. I have JSN and Kenneth Walker's a very risky play, but hopefully those 2 can pop off. I have them in 2 leagues that I'm still in the the playoffs in. So hopefully they can have good games. Kenneth Walker's been shitting the bed lately. But yeah, Rams very well could lose the game. I wouldn't bet this game with the 10-foot pole, but I'll say Stafford and company do just enough to squeak it out. The Seattle offense hurts them just a bit too much here. I'll go with the Rams to win a squeaker 23-20 here. Next game, Philly and Washington. This is actually going to be taking place Saturday, 5 p.m., I believe, on the East Coast time, at least my time zone. I'm going to go with Philly here, but I strongly considered picking Washington. Now, Philly, they looked great last week, but again, that was against the Raiders. I thought they'd win the game, but it'd be more of an ugly win where it's like, all right, they won, but something is still seriously wrong with this team. Not really the case. They just absolutely hammered the Raiders, went up and down the field for the most part, dominated the game. This game, I think, is going to be more like the game I was expecting against the Raiders, where Philly wins, but it's like, okay, yep, they nearly lost to the Commanders, who were obviously a disaster this season. Ugly win. They nearly blew it. They got the win, but something's wrong with them. I think it's going to be how the game plays out. I think Philly's defense is going to play really solid here. It's going to be the main reason they win. I think it's a hard-earned, kind of sluggish 23 points for Philly here. I think Washington's right there for most of the game. It's maybe the game where it looks like they're going to steal it at the end, and Philly's defense stands tall, wins in the game. I think it's going to be a game like that. These teams play twice in 3 weeks, so I'm going to be very inclined to pick Washington Week 18, especially considering, potentially maybe the Eagles are locked in seeding wise at that point, so they rest some guys. They did that Week 18 last year. We'll have to see. But typically, when you play a team twice in a 3-week span, especially the teams are like evenly matched or close to being evenly matched, and again, Philly's much better on paper than Washington, but the way they've been playing, who the hell knows? Teams typically split in those scenarios. So maybe Washington could play spoiler Week 18, hurt the Eagles' seeding for the going into playoffs the last week of the regular season. But as far as this game, Washington, they look good one week, then bad the next week. They're hard to read. With the Eagles' offense not being too great the past couple weeks, and I know they put up 31 last week, but that was the Raiders. I think Washington's defense could play solid here. The offense, I just don't think it's going to do enough, but who knows? They've actually been solid with Mariota. Could see them getting the upset here. The offense, doing a bit better than this. The defense playing a bit better. So there's definitely some logic to picking Washington. I would not bet that 7-point spread on Philly. I think Washington could very easily cover that. Wouldn't be shocked if they win the game. But I'll go with Philly here. I get a close dub, 23-17. The next game, Packers-Bears. This is the primetime game Saturday. I think it's kicking off at like 8:20, I want to say. I'm going to go with the Bears here. I'm very split on it. These teams played just a couple weeks, or actually 2 weeks ago. So like I just said, typically when you play a team twice in 3 weeks, they split, especially if they're evenly matched. These teams are fairly evenly matched, I would say. And the Packers are dealing with a bunch of injuries. The Bears are as well, but I don't know. At home, Chicago, big game for them for the division. If Green Bay wins this game, they will have swept Chicago, and they'll be the front runners for the division. There's still a couple weeks to go, but they'll have the tiebreaker over the Bears since they swept them. Roma Dunze, I think he's let's see. I think he's questionable for the game. Let's see here. Pretty sure he's questionable. Just kidding. He is ruled out. So obviously that's a bit of a blow. Luther Burden ruled out too. So it looks like DJ Moore and Zacchaeus, who I think Zacchaeus is actually kind of underrated. Those are going to be the two guys Caleb Williams primarily throwing to from the receiver position. Obviously he's got Komet and Loveland. They've been getting Loveland a bit more involved. But the Bears like to run the shit out of the football. That's going to be a bit easier with Micah Parsons not out there for Green Bay. I know Micah Parsons, part of the reason Jerry traded him is because he wasn't a great run defender. But still, being able to run the ball is going to be easier without Micah Parsons. And it obviously is going to negate Green Bay's pass rush a bit. And, the game a couple weeks ago, the Packers were dominating. They dominated the first half, and the Bears came back and they outplayed them the second half, I would say. And if Caleb Williams sees Cole Kmet just a second sooner, they would have went for two. Ben Johnson said maybe they get it and win the game. Who knows? So I think the Bears are going to try to pick up where they left off in the second half of that game. Obviously, the Packers will make some adjustments too, and they're going to translate that into four full quarters of football. I don't see either of these teams winning by more than one score. I think regardless of which team wins, it's going to be within a few points, within one possession. I don't know. Chicago at home, twice in 3 weeks. Both teams beat up, but Packers are also dealing with a bunch of receiver injuries. The game being as close as it was a couple weeks ago. My gut's telling me Bears. The Bears, if we know anything about them this season, they tend to win close games, find a way. I think this is going to be one of them here. So I'm going to go with Chicago 23-21. Green Bay could very easily win the game. It feels like in big game situations, that's when Jordan Love plays his best. Matt LaFleur cooks up a good game plan. This Packers defense without Parsons, obviously that's a bit of a blow, well, more than a bit of a blow. But I think Jeff Hafley's going to have them ready to go. I think they could play a really solid game here. It's very, very tough for me to predict. Even with the injuries, I could see Green Bay winning the game. This is a borderline coin flip game for me. I think it's going to be a very balanced game. Both defenses play well. Both offenses play well. I'm just going to go with the Bears to find a way here. 23-21. Not bet that spread at all. Could go either way, but I think this will be a good game. I'll go with the Bears, get a 2-point squeaker victory here. Then getting on to the Sunday games here. Bills, Browns. Yep, definitely going with the Bills. I think James Cook is going to have a monster game here. Could this be the game Myles Garrett breaks the sack record? I believe he's a sack. I want to say I think he's a sack and a half back from tying the record. I'm not 100% sure, but he very well could break it this game. I think Josh Allen in the passing game, I think he'll look okay, but I think, as I mentioned, the run game, the Bills are going to have a big lead from, the get-go, most of the game. They're just going to try to run the clock out. James Cook and company, they have a big game, big day running on the ground. Buffalo's defense, I think, it's not been good for most of the season. I think it plays well here. This Browns offense is just awful. Shador's been okay, but the coaching is just absolutely horrible for Cleveland offensively. I really just do not see how the Browns offense can outscore Josh Allen and company. The only chance for Cleveland whatsoever in this game is if their defense plays a ridiculous game and holds Josh Allen to under 20, because I really have a hard time unless there's a pick six or a fumble score return for a touchdown or a punt return touchdown, something weird like that. I really do not see how the Browns score more than 20 points in this game. So the Browns defense can really limit Buffalo. That'll be their key to pulling off the upset here. It is in Cleveland. Browns defense played bad 2 games in a row, so maybe they're due for a bounce back performance here. I don't know, maybe Shador pulls one out. Who knows? But I don't want to overthink it. Buffalo is 10.5-point favorites. I think they'll cover that spread. I'm going to pick them 31-15 here. Pretty confident with the Bills, unfortunately, as a Patriots fan. Next game, Bucks and Panthers. Actually, sorry, I have a wrong score prediction here. I'm going to say, there we go. Okay, Tampa and Carolina. Very intriguing matchup here. The Bucks have just completely fell off a cliff since their red hot start. They have been a mess. They're going on the road in Carolina. Obviously, this game is massive. So, in the NFC South winner, these teams also played twice in a 3-week stretch. So, whichever team loses, obviously it's going to be a bit of a blow, but it may not necessarily be the end of the world because they have a chance to redeem themselves, obviously, next week, and then especially Week 18 when these teams match up again. Carolina, they're a hard team to read. They look great one week, then they look awful the next week. I don't know how the hell to read them. This is a tough one. If this was in Tampa, I would feel more confident with this pick, but I'm going to go with the Bucks here. My gut is actually feeling okay with this pick. Now, even though the Bucks have been bad lately, something about that Thursday night game just seems like a bit of a wake up call. Not that they needed it, but it seems like they're going to be locked in. They're going to be extremely pissed off how the back half of the year's gone, how they blew that game, and they also caught a break with the Saints upsetting the Panthers. So Tampa caught a bit of a break there. I just think they're going to be pissed off. They're going to be more locked in. Big game. Even though the Bucks have been bad, what team do you trust more? The Bucks, who have won this division every year since 2021, every year since Baker Mayfield has been there. A bunch of veterans versus Carolina, who's very hot and cold, and Bryce Young, who's very hot and cold as well. I just trust Tampa more in a big game situation like this. So I'm going to go with them here. But Carolina, again, they're a much different team, much better team at home compared to on the road. And if Tampa plays like they have in the past couple of weeks, Carolina could very easily win the game. Bryce Young, I could see him going off, but I also could see Tampa's defense finally playing like a really solid defense, like they, were supposed to this year, pretty much. Did in parts of this year. So I could see Bryce Young having a good game, but I think Tampa's defense will be able to limit them enough. The run game, maybe that gets going. Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard, maybe that gets going. It feels like it's been a bit quiet the past couple weeks for Carolina. Carolina's defense, they're very hot and cold too. I could see them playing well here. Borderline coin flip game, similar to Green Bay and Chicago for me. But I'm just going to trust the more battle tested team here. The Bucs have proven in games like this over the past that they tend to come out on the winning side of it. Carolina just not quite there for me. So I'm going to go with Tampa to get a squeaker here, 26-23. I would probably avoid that spread because it can go either way. The Chargers and the Cowboys. This should be a really good game. I'm back and forth on it. Dallas, if they want any chance whatsoever at the playoffs, they need to win out. I'm tempted to pick them just because I have a tough time seeing them losing 2 home games in a row. The Chargers, it feels like they're due for a slip up. They just, they played Philly 2 weeks ago, gutted that game out. Then they went on the road to KC, gutted that one out. Just feels like the way their offense has been playing, and I know the Dallas defense been a disaster for most of the season, especially the past couple weeks. It's kind of come back down to earth after playing a bit better after their bye and their trade deadline acquisitions and getting a bit healthier. If the offense, the key to Dallas in the game is that their defense can go back to the level that they were when they were playing a bit better a couple weeks ago, and get pass rush on Herbert. That's been the issue for the Chargers all year with their extremely injured offensive line. If they can hold the Chargers to like under 20, that's going to be, or even like in the lower 20s, that's going to be a big key for Dallas winning the game here. The Chargers defense has been really good all year, especially the past couple weeks. Now, of course, a couple outlier games, but offensively, Dallas, obviously, that's their strength at home. I could see them scoring more than this, but my gut is kind of telling me they score like 27, but I feel okay with the Chargers winning. I don't really see the Chargers scoring more than 27. So, I don't know. I'm going to say, the Chargers just do enough here. I think offensively, they finally kind of have a really solid game instead of just squeaking by. They put up a few touchdowns, few field goals. The defense isn't at its best state. They do just enough. Chargers are better coached than Dallas, I think. So I'm going to go with the Chargers 27-24 in a squeaker here. If Dallas does win, I could see their offense just putting up more than this. Defense playing a bit better, getting to Herbert. So I would not have bet on this game. I'm going to say that a lot in this video. I already have a lot of tough games to predict this week. So I'm going to go Chargers by 3, but really could go either way. Should be an entertaining game. Bengals, Dolphins. Interesting game here. I'm going to go with Cincy to bounce back. Now, I would have picked Cincy even if Tua started, but I probably would have had it be closer. I probably would have had like 26 to, I don't know, like 24, something like maybe 27, 24, something like that. But Quinn Ewers getting the start. Now, I'm not a college guy that much. I don't really know much about Quinn Ewers, but The Dolphins' offense with Tua has not been too great. Even on their win streak, they were solid, but it hasn't been too great most of the season. I don't know. I have to imagine Quinn Ewers in his first career start. I don't know. I don't think the offense is going to do too much. However, I mean, he is going to get, if you're going to start going against this horrific Bengals defense, it's a good way to, get your first start at home too. And you're eliminated from the playoffs. Both these teams are, so you have nothing to lose. Now, obviously, he's not going to probably play like that because he's going to try to make his case to be the starter moving forward in the future. But I don't know. Achane, if the Dolphins do in this game, I could see Achane absolutely having a monster game, which I have in one of my fantasy leagues and still in the playoffs. So that would be big. I could see Achane having a monster game here. The Bengals defense is a disaster, so schematically, I think Waddle and Achane could really hurt them. I could see the Dolphins exploding, even though I only have them scoring 17. I could see them scoring a lot more than that, maybe near 30. Maybe even 30 plus wouldn't surprise me, even though, I just can't predict it to happen. Burrow's been, not too great lately. Well, I mean, he's been fine. Not just last week was bad. Bad vibes in Cincinnati. I think they get a much needed win here to turn around the vibes, even though they're out of the playoffs. Miami's defense has been solid lately, but I think Burrow and the offense back or bounce back here. They get the dub. The defense, I think, plays okay, but I could see it getting torched. But I just can't pick Quinn Ewers to score more points than Joe Burrow in this specific game. Bengals are 4.5 point favorites. I'm interested to see how much the line shifted when it was announced Quinn Ewers was starting. My guess is since he was favored by like 3, and now they're favored by 4.5, something like that is my guess. But I'll go with Cincy here, 26-17, bounce back win. I could see, a narrow win. I could see Miami winning narrowly or winning comfortably. A bunch of different scenarios here. 4.5 point spread, risky. I'll probably bet it though. I don't know. I usually don't bet spread, but we'll see. 26-17 is my pick, Cincy in this one though. Chiefs Titans. Now, this is actually an interesting game. Now, both these teams are eliminated, but it's intriguing still because who the hell would have thought this would have been an intriguing game entering the season? And then, as the season progressed, who would have thought this would have been an interesting game? Now, the Titans have been playing a bit better lately, even though they've still been losing. They've been playing a bit better. Obviously, the Chiefs aren't going to have Mahomes. Minshew, I don't think is going to be awful. Obviously, that pick to end the game last week was pretty bad, but Minshew is serviceable. He has a decent amount of starting experience under his belt. He actually has played the Titans a decent amount in his career. Obviously, it's Tennessee's a much different team compared to when Minshew was playing them back in the day. But still, Minshew, off the top of my head, I think he's actually played solid against the Titans, has a decent amount of success against them. I remember the Thursday night game he started. He absolutely, I'm pretty sure they annihilated them. That was like Minshew Mania when that was born. But anyway, the offense for the Chiefs has not been good all year, even with Mahomes. I don't think it's going to be a significant downgrade with Minshew. Obviously, a bit of a downgrade, I'm sure. But I think the Chiefs defense is going to win them the game here. Chiefs defense, even though people have been ripping on it all season, would you believe that they've the 5th-ranked foreign defense, I believe, in the NFL? I would love to have seen the criticism for Tom Brady if it was a 7-seeded playoff format and Tom Brady had a top 5 scoring defense and missed the playoffs. But that's okay. We'll just let Mahomes off the hook there. And Mahomes has not played well all season, especially lately, but that's okay. Anyway, Minshew here. I think it's just going to do enough. I think his defense wins in the game. I think it's ugly, harder, and 23 points to the Chiefs. I think maybe the Titans are driving to get a touchdown and win the game. The defense of the Chiefs holds on, wins in the game. Chiefs get a win where the vibes, even though they're eliminated. Good vibe win on a losing streak. They get the win. Maybe they're playing for Mahomes. Who the hell knows? I just, even with Minshew, I just have a hard time seeing them lose to this Titans team. Even though Tennessee's been playing a bit better. Minshew, I think, he'll just do enough. Probably, basically do what the Chiefs done all season: short throws, 400 wide receiver screens to Rashee Rice a game, short passes to Kelce. My gut's kind of telling me Kelce. Maybe he's a clutch driver. He has a big game. Looks like he might retire from his podcast comments. Um, but yeah, I think Minshew does just enough. Chiefs defense wins in the game here. Colts game, they're favored by 3. I think they'll cover that. Tennessee, again, they very well could win the game. Been playing a bit better. Could see the offense putting up a bit more than this, maybe in the 20s. They can score in like the mid 20s, even in the lower 20s. They get a really good shot to win the game. Tennessee's defense, I could see them winning them the game too. Chiefs offense just shits the bed this game. I could see that. Titans are kind of due for a win, even though they got it 2 weeks ago. The way they've been playing, you think they'll, I don't know, get at least one more win. Who knows, though? But interesting game. I'm actually a bit excited to see how it plays out. I'll go with the Chiefs here, 23-17. Minnesota and the Giants. I'm going to go with the Vikings here. I think this is an ugly game. I think the Giants defense plays decent in this game. J.J. McCarthy, I don't think he's going to be back to, the quarterback we saw his first couple starts. I think he's going to be a mix of in between those starts in the past couple weeks. He's been playing well the past 2 games. I think he maybe is a bad turnover or two, takes a bad sack, couple sacks, things like that. I think, as I mentioned, the Giants defense plays solid in this game, keeps it low scoring, but I think in the end, J.J. McCarthy and the offense do just enough to pull off the win here. I just trust the Vikings defense, and it's been playing very well lately. I just trust them a bit more to get the dub here. The Giants, they were solid, even though they were losing at the start of the year with Dart. Now they're just getting worse and worse. It feels like even though they almost came back last week, they got thoroughly outplayed by a mess of a Commanders team. The Giants are a mess too. Uh, yeah, just Jackson Dart and company against the Brian Flores defense. I think that could be a nightmare. The Giants said they're going to win the game. The Brian Flores defense is kind of, prone to giving up some deep shots and big plays. The Giants are kind of due for some of those. Maybe they hit them here. They're also just due for a win in general. Again, I could see their defense making J.J. McCarthy look like the quarterback he's been most of the season. So definitely some logic to picking the Giants, but I'll go with the Vikings to get a squeaker of a win here. I probably would not touch. I think they'll cover the spread, but I probably wouldn't touch it because I don't think, at least this season, I'm touching a spread with J.J. McCarthy as the starting quarterback if they're favored. So I'll go with the Vikings 20-16 here. Jets Saints. Uh, basically a tank bowl. Not the most appealing matchup by far. I'm pretty confident with the Saints here. They've actually been playing some decent football lately. They're on a 2-game win streak, and they beat Tampa and Carolina, who obviously they're not the greatest teams, and Tampa's been struggling. Carolina is very hot and cold, as I mentioned, breaking down that matchup. But that's still 2 wins in a row over decent teams at worst. They're at home here. The defense for the Saints has actually been playing solid lately. Not a lot of people talking about it because it's the Saints, but the defense has been playing solid. So give Brandon Staley credit there. Offensively, Shuck has been decent. They're at home here. The Jets are just a dumpster fire at the moment. Brady Cook's going to be starting here. With the Saints defense playing the way it is, I just do not think they're going to put up enough points to win the game. The Jets firing Aaron Glenn, or sorry, not Aaron Glenn. Maybe they will fire Aaron Glenn. Who the hell knows? The Jets firing Steve Wilks. Maybe that gets their defensive coordinator. Maybe the defense gets the. I don't think. I don't want to say morale boost because I don't think that was the issue with Steve Wilks. Maybe they just change some things up. They get going a bit in this game. By no means do I think the Saints are going to pop off and score 30 plus in this game, but I think the Jets defense keeps it close. But actually, I could see the Saints just blowing the doors off the Jets. I could see that. But I think the Jets defense keeps it relatively close. New Orleans, their offense does just enough, but I think they just ride their defense this game. Just don't see Brady Cook getting it done for the Jets here. The Jets do win. We've seen their special teams score some touchdowns. Maybe their special teams comes in clutch this game. Uh, Maybe the Jets defense that I mentioned gets that burst from Steve Wilks getting canned, but the offense I don't see it happening. I'll go with New Orleans here 23-13. Pretty confident with the Saints straight up. That spread 5.5. I think they'll cover that too. Late afternoon games. Jacksonville and Denver. Intriguing matchup. Very intriguing game. I very well could see the Jags winning this game. Now, the Jags, their key to winning the game, their defense, what has it done all season? It forces like 1,000 turnovers a game. It feels like especially timely turnovers, very similar to the Bears. And even though the offense for Denver's been solid lately, especially last game, they looked very good. The one time I benched Bo Nix all year, he has the best fantasy game of the year. Well, I get maybe not fantasy game, but best overall game of the year. So thank you, Bo Nix, for that. But I don't know. It's prone just week to week to looking great, then bad. The Jags' key to winning the game. I could see a scenario where Bo Nix and the offense just don't have much going here, and Bo Nix has some bad plays, turns it over. Bo Nix is kind of due for an ugly game like that. We saw a couple at the start of the year, and the Jags' offense is red hot. And Denver's defense, we've seen it lately being prone to kind of giving up good games to quarterbacks. They shut down the Packers the second half of last week, pretty much, but well, more so Jordan Love. But we saw Mariota, Kenny Pickett late in the game. That was garbage time. They got some offense going. So the red hot Jags, I could see the offense get going here. Their defense, maybe they force some turnovers. Those are going to be keys to the Jags pulling off the upset here. And I'll be pulling for the Jaguars as the Patriots fan, so I still have slim hopes that we're going to get the 1 seed. But with all that being said, I'm going to pick Denver here. I just can't pick, the Jaguars pull off the upset. I could see a scenario where Denver just blows the doors off the Jaguars and they win comfortably in a blowout. I could see that, but I think it's going to be a close game. I think Denver's offense has a solid game. The Jags defense gets a few stops, keeps Denver within the mid-20s scoring. I think Denver's defense is going to play a really solid game here. I mentioned Bo Nix. He has some bad games. Well, Trevor Lawrence, he's playing red hot right now. He also is very prone to having some bad games. Denver's defense, the pass rush, and forcing some turnovers, like making Trevor Lawrence having a really bad game. I could see that. I could see, Denver being in complete control. Jags score late. Maybe they get the ball. It's like, are they seriously going to seal the game? Denver's defense stops them. I could see that scenario. I just can't pick the Jaguars to pull it off as badly as I want to as a Patriots fan. I think Denver, they're favored by 3. I think they'll cover that spread. I have them winning by 6 here. So I'll go the Broncos get the dub here. Very intriguing game. If the Jaguars somehow pull, they're not even they could get the 1 seed, the Jaguars still. Obviously, I don't think they will, but who the hell would have thought that they would be even in contention for the 1 seed going into the season? But I'll go with Denver to get the win. But if the Jags pull it off, look out here. Atlanta and Arizona. Now, I mean, who cares about this game? It obviously doesn't matter in terms of the playoffs, but this is actually one of the hardest games like all season for me to pick because Atlanta really should win the game. They're much more talented on paper, especially with all the injuries in the Cardinals. And they're coming off a really good performance against the Bucs last week. The Cardinals defense is just an absolute mess right now with all the injuries. Bijan should absolutely go off in this game. Maybe the Falcons found something offensively against the Bucs last Thursday. Well, I guess technically like 10 days ago is this when this game will be played. But I don't know. Arizona's overdue for a win, even though they've gotten blown out lately. They've been close in a couple games. They nearly upset the Jaguars a couple weeks ago at home. But I don't know. I just can't pick them here with all the injuries. Atlanta, I do think the way I think this game's going to play out is Atlanta's in control. It's close, most of it. Atlanta's defense plays a really solid game. They, make it rough for Brissett and company. And then late, Arizona, maybe they get a touchdown or a score, and then maybe they get a turnover, they get the ball back. It's like the Falcons going to blow the game in classic Falcon fashion, and then Atlanta holds on. That's kind of how I think the game's going to go here. I don't know. I just think Bijan could have a monster game here. The Falcons offensively, with all the injuries in mind, I think they're going to outscore Arizona here. Brissett and company have been serviceable, but this Atlanta defense, I think it's been solid most of the season. At least passing wise, I think they play well here, play well enough to win the game. But Arizona is due for a win. The Falcons, you can never trust them. I could see Arizona just putting together a solid game. Maybe they come from behind. Maybe they just get a close win somehow. They're due for one. So I could see that defense playing just well enough to win the game. The offense guts it out at the end. But I'll go with the Falcons here. Would absolutely not bet on this game because it's the Falcons. Well, actually, just because it's the Falcons. I think the game can honestly go either way. Tough for me to pick here. Would be the most Falcons thing ever to get a good win on the road in Tampa and then just come on the road to a ridiculously injured Arizona team that's mightily struggling and then just blowing it. But I'll go with Atlanta here 26-24. Would not at all bet on this game. Steelers Lions. I'm going to go with the Lions here, and I'm pretty comfortable with them straight up. And honestly, maybe this is a bit bold, but I have them scoring 34 points. My gut is just telling me right from the get go, the Lions immediately jump out to a lead. The defense plays really well. The crowd gets, reignited. The Lions need to, I think they can maybe mathematically afford one more loss. I think likely they need to win out to make the playoffs. I think if they win out, they get like a 54% chance or something like that. So basically a 50-50 coin flip chance that they win out of making the playoffs. Obviously the Lions know that, and they're at home, coming off a tough loss to the Rams on the road. The crowd's going to be, obviously behind them, especially, in borderline desperate times where they need to win out for the playoffs. The offense, however, for the Lions has been getting going lately. The Steelers' defense has been very hot and cold all year. Last week they played great against Miami, and it's weird saying last week because it was just on Monday they played. Also, a short week for the Steelers. That's another thing to note here. Monday to Sunday instead of Sunday to Sunday. So I don't know. The Steelers defense has been hot and cold. My gut is telling me that they play bad in this game, and the Lions offense just goes up and down the field, and they have a great day. The Lions defense has been bad mostly all season. The Steelers offense has mostly been hot and cold too. My gut is kind of telling me the Lions defense plays a solid game here. And Vegas must be, thinking something similar to me because the Lions being favored by 7 is a bit of a surprise. I thought they'd be favored absolutely, but maybe only by like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 points, something like that. But being favored by 7, Vegas, is pretty comfortable with the Lions here. If the Steelers win the game, they could. Like I just said, maybe the Steelers' offense past 2 weeks, maybe they figured something out. They played fairly decent. The Lions' defense, as I mentioned, has been a mess all season. So maybe Metcalf and company have a big game. Steelers defense, if they play another solid game like they have been the past 2 weeks, maybe that could be their key to winning here. But I don't know. I'm pretty confident the Lions to get a much needed win and comfortably. I'll go with Detroit 34-23. Bit of a bold move for a 7-point spread, but I may bet it. I may bet it for the odds. Oh boy. Raiders Texans. Well, if anyone is still in a survivor pool league and you haven't picked the Texans yet, well, barring something absolutely unforeseen, this should be your survivor pool pick this week. I, I try to make a case why each team could win every game. I really am having a hard time making a case for the Raiders in this game. The only possible logic I can think of for picking the Raiders in this game is I do think their defense will play decent in this game, and they'll keep the Texans under 30. I could see them holding Houston to like in the lower 20s, probably a bunch of field goals. The Raiders defense has been bad through parts of the year, but it's overall a decent defense. I said it in a bunch of my videos, but I like Patrick Graham as a defensive coach and a defensive coordinator. But they're just going to have to get some really random things to happen, like the special teams popping off. Maybe the defense forces turnovers. I actually consider. I just don't see it happening. I considered having the Texans shut the Raiders out. Now, if they do that, that will be the third shutout this season the Raiders have had, and the back-to-back weeks of them getting shut out. The reason I'm not picking that is because I think the Raiders defense is going to force enough stops, and maybe they get a good punt return or something like that, where Houston's defense allows at least some points. But this struggling Raiders offense against this Houston defense is going to be an absolute nightmare. At least on paper, it should be for the Raiders in this game. I just Oh boy, this is just a horrible matchup for the Raiders. Texans red hot. That defense is red hot. The offense is figuring it out. If this game is within 2 scores, I'll honestly be not only surprised, I'll be shocked. The only way I think it is if they're down 3 scores and they get a garbage time touchdown or something like that. I'm extremely confident the Texans here. They're 14 and a half point favorites. I honestly think they'll cover that. That spreads like that. You get a bit concerned with the backdoor cover, but I think Houston's going to cover that spread. I would be absolutely shell shocked if they somehow lost this game, especially at home. The Raiders are due for a win. That's another logic. You can pick them, I guess, but I would be shocked. I'm going to go with Houston 27-10. I am extremely confident with Houston in this game, like most people, I would imagine. Here we go. Sunday Night Football. We get my team, the Patriots, at the Ravens. Now, this is the second week in a row we're underdogs to a team I feel that we should not be. Now, I'm not, I understand why we were underdogs to the Bills. I don't think we should have been, but I sort of understand it. I was upset about it. This game, I actually, even though Baltimore, you can argue, is worse than Buffalo this season, I actually kind of understand. I think before last week we were underdogs, and then I want to say it was like 2.5 point spread, something like that. And then it worked its way up to 3. I think it was 2.5, and now it worked its way up to 3 from yesterday, I want to say, or 2 days ago, something like that. So obviously Vegas saw how the game we had against Buffalo played out last week, and I'm sure that influenced the spread a bit. A pivotal game for Baltimore here to try to stay in the race with the AFC North, the Steelers, and some added motivation for Baltimore. Again, this game's Sunday night. It got flexed a couple weeks ago. It's supposed to be Cincy, Miami. Thank God they flexed that game out of prime time. But could be some added motivation for Baltimore if they see Pittsburgh lose earlier in the day. Well, actually, it's a four. I think it's 425 slot, either 405 or 425. I think it's 425 that Pittsburgh plays the Lions, and I'm pretty confident the Lions winning. That's going to be a bit of a morale boost. It'll probably end around an hour, maybe 50 minutes before this game kicks off. So, a bit of a morale boost for the Ravens. They see the Steelers lose. So, big game for them. Sunday night, Baltimore. Ravens are a different animal. Just that alone makes me nervous. As much as I'm happy that this game got flexed into prime time, I am nervous with it being in prime time in Baltimore. So yeah, pivotal game for the Ravens. Prime time in Baltimore. Our run defense has been bad lately without Milton Williams. Derrick Henry can get going. You can say the Ravens defense has been playing really solid lately. Zach Orr's done a really good job. Obviously, his seat was extremely hot when they were 1-5. The defense looked like a disaster, but he has turned the ship around. So give him credit there. And we're coming off a game where the 7 points we scored against Buffalo in the second half, we're kind of lucky that Henderson just bailed us out on a monster improvised play, which we probably could have gotten called for a hold, but that's okay. But yeah. So the Ravens, there's a bunch of logic that suggests they could win. I'm not surprised they're favored. I'm less pissed off they're favored than the Bills being favored, even though Baltimore, again, as I said, is a bit worse than Buffalo this season, you can probably say. However, I'm going with my team. Of course I am. I think we bounce back here. The Ravens' offense has not been good since Lamar has come back. And even though they went on a 5-game win streak, since that Cincy loss and they lost the Steelers, it was kind of more evident because they were losing. I think even last week, the offense only scored 17 against an awful Bengals defense. Now, the Bengals defense, it played them well the first time on Thanksgiving. Actually, that's another thing. I'm nervous about primetime in Baltimore. Well, if the Bengals can beat them in primetime in Baltimore, I think we can. Now, I know the Bengals obviously know them better than we do, playing them twice a year, but most of the times the games are close between those two teams in recent years. But we're better than the Bengals this season, obviously. So since he can do it, I think we can do it. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think we bounce back here. The Ravens' offense has not been too great. Our defense, it got absolutely shredded in the second half last week. We allowed 5 straight touchdown drives, 4 of them in the second half. And then we finally get a 3-and-out late in the game. But the offense, unfortunately, we couldn't take advantage of it. I don't know. My gut is telling me their defense bounces back into struggling Baltimore offense. Lamar, something's been off with him. I think the defense bounces back. Offensively, I don't think we go off and score 30 plus and May's throwing it up and down the field, anything like that. But I think Baltimore's defense keeps it close. Maybe we settle for some, more field goals than normal in this game. Borregales could have a big game here. I know. I think our offense is just enough. I think I could see a scenario where we win maybe by more than one score, but I think regardless of which team wins, it's going to be close. I could see a scenario where maybe Baltimore, the run game gets going, the defense plays really well. We could lose a bit ugly, and then the talk's going to be, we're frauds. We're only this good because of the schedule. 2 back-to-back losses against, well, a good team in Buffalo, and then I'm hesitant to say good with Baltimore because they've been very shaky this year. But still, you'd like to think of Baltimore as a good team. But I don't know. I don't see it happening. I'm going to pick us 26-20. Very intriguing, or very intrigued to see how this game plays out. I'll pick us to get the dub here. I would bet us +3 if you're going to bet the spread here. Obviously, I have us winning, so that's more than covering the spread. If Baltimore does win, it'll probably be 3 or 4 points. I don't know. I feel pretty decent about this game. I think people are just overlooking the collapse we had last week. I think we're going to reset, get back in the lab. We're going to be more attentive now that we lost, and we're going to come out and play just great. So I'll go with us 26-20. Intrigued to see how this game goes, though. Then the last game, the Monday night game, 49ers at Colts. I'm going to go with the 49ers, but I think this is going to be closer than some people may think. Now, I could see the 49ers just whooping the Colts' ass and winning convincingly. However, the Colts' defense has actually been decent it's been decent for most of the season. Even on their losing streak, the Colts' defense has been solid for the most part, keeping them in it. The offense hasn't been too great. The Jacksonville game was kind of a mess. Besides that, it's been solid. I think in this game, Indy's defense plays well, and they limit the 49ers a bit. However, I just can't trust, Philip Rivers, who, no disrespect, but obviously they're just playing him as a game manager at this point. I don't see how they outscore the 49ers offense. I think Purdy and company, even though it's not the most efficient 24 points, I think they just get the job done. I think Jonathan Taylor, maybe he could have a big game here. Maybe McCaffrey could have a big game too. But yeah, I don't know. I just can't trust Philip Rivers to outdo Purdy and the 49ers offense here. I think both defenses play well. I think the 49ers defense has, not the most efficient game, but I think they, holding any team to 20, but I think, it'll be 20 points where the Colts are moving the ball for most of the game, and it just doesn't translate to a lot of points. I think the 49ers defense, maybe they get a clutch stop. I don't know. Indy, like I said, they could steal the game if their defense plays well, which I think it would. I think it will. And maybe they open the playbook up. They let Philip Rivers a bit more loose. Extra day to prepare, you can argue, even though that's the case for both teams. I know the 49ers allowed the Titans to get a decent amount of points on them. So at home, Indy. By the way, this is a critical game for both teams, but Indy too. You're just hoping to get in the playoffs, so maybe the crowd being behind them, especially with the desperation factor, could give Indy a bit of a boost. I would certainly avoid that 6 point spread for the Niners. Indy +6 wouldn't be a bad bet, but I think San Francisco is going to win. I would avoid the spread, but if you're going to bet the 6 spread, I would probably do Indy +6. I think they'll be within 6. Wouldn't be shocked if they pull it off here, but I'll go with the 49ers 24-20 in this one. But I think this is going to be a lot of running clock. I think a lot of short passing. Obviously, we know that for the Colts probably. Jonathan Taylor, a bunch of carries. McCaffrey, a bunch of carries. A running clock in this game. This game's going to fly by, I think. So, yeah, let me just make sure all the games here, double check. So, yeah, looks like a bunch of difficult games to pick this week. Obviously, the stakes are getting higher and higher as we get closer to the postseason. Next week is probably going to be, the last week a decent amount of teams play their starters. Week 18, usually it's a decent mix of teams playing their starters and some teams that have the seeding clinched. They just bench some guys. So maybe you can argue in terms of quality of football this week and next week for the regular season, maybe the last 2 good weeks, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see. But a bunch of good games this week should be pretty good. Especially, as I always say in these videos, good luck, especially this week with fantasy playoffs being, in play in most leagues. Good luck with picks, betting, as I always say, all that good stuff. But I will wrap this video up here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Take it easy. And as always, go Pats.